The stars looked different out here. Captain Jake Morrison leaned against the railing of the bridge, his gaze fixed on the infinite black beyond the windows of the United Earth ship Defiance. The constellations of Earth, Orion, Cassiopeia, the Southern Cross, had long since slipped behind the veil of distance. Out here, 3 months into their mission, the sky was unfamiliar. The universe itself felt like a stranger. The Defiance was more than just another starship. She was the culmination of centuries of dreaming and decades of preparation, humanity's first true deep space warship. Unlike the older exploration vessels that had ventured into nearby systems, the Defiance carried teeth, heavy particle lances, railgun batteries, missile silos, and the stealth systems to cloak her presence. She had the endurance to survive a year away from any human port and the firepower to defend herself if things went badly. And things were beginning to look very bad. Commander Lisa Harper moved quietly across the bridge, her posture precise, her hair tied back in regulation fashion that never seemed to hold during long shifts. She carried a data pad, but her expression carried more weight than the device. Concern. Hesitation. The same look Jake had been seeing on the senior staff for weeks. "Captain," she said, lowering her voice. "We're picking up more of those signatures again." Jake turned slowly. He already knew what she meant. "Lieutenant Clark's been running analysis. They're not natural. Artificial. And massive. For the last month, the Defiance had been intercepting bursts of strange energy from a nearby system, enormous, structured pulses that no human database could explain. At first, Amy Clark, their science officer, had dismissed them as sensor errors. But the patterns had continued. And grown stronger. How massive? Jake asked, though his gut already knew. Lisa exhaled. Each burst equals Earth's entire planetary energy output for a full day. And they're happening, every hour. Sometimes multiple times an hour. The word settled like ice in Jake's stomach. Whoever, or whatever, was responsible for these signals possessed power that dwarfed humanity's most advanced reactors. From the engineering station, Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez looked up. Young but brilliant, Sam had kept the Defiance hidden with stealth systems of his own design. Yet even he looked shaken. "Captain, if something out there can generate that kind of energy, they can probably see us, even with stealth at full power. We might want to consider turning back." Jake didn't reply immediately. Sam was right. By Earth standards, the Defiance was powerful, but this wasn't Earth anymore. Out here, in the silent reaches of unexplored space, human technology might as well be a child's toy in the presence of giants. At communications, Lieutenant Ben Turner, older and more seasoned than most of the crew, finally spoke. His experience with alien signal protocols made him indispensable, and his silences made his words matter more. "Captain," he said, "I've been dissecting the electromagnetic noise around those bursts. There are signals embedded in the interference. Structured. Purposeful. Someone's talking out there." Jake's pulse quickened. First contact. The dream and the nightmare of every captain. "Any chance you can decode?" "Working on it," Ben replied, his voice calm but heavy. "The math is alien. But I can say this, there's not just one signal type. Multiple. Different origins. Different patterns." Lisa's eyes widened. "You're saying, multiple species?" Ben nodded. "That's my assessment. Whatever we're looking at isn't one civilization. It might be several. Maybe an alliance. Maybe something else." Jake walked to the main display. The star system appeared as a pale diagram. 7 planets orbiting a sun not unlike Earth's. The energy bursts were traced to the empty space between the third and fourth worlds. "Amy," Jake said, "what's your assessment of that system?" The quiet science officer looked up. She never rushed her words. "Stable. Roughly 4 billion years old. The third planet has indicators of liquid water. The fourth has a large moon, industrially viable. If someone wanted to build something large, this would be an ideal staging ground. Jake narrowed his eyes. How large? Amy hesitated. Based on the energy signatures. Structures hundreds of kilometers across. Possibly larger. Captain, our biggest stations would be invisible beside them. The bridge fell into silence. Even the hum of the Defiance's engine seemed distant, as if the ship itself were listening. Here it was, the moment. Every instinct told Jake to turn away. Every protocol warned against interference. Yet every explorer's soul ached to know. Humanity's first step into the wider galaxy had been cautious, careful. But this was the edge of something historic. Sam, Jake asked, how long can we maintain stealth on approach? Maybe a month, Rodriguez replied. But if they start scanning seriously, it won't matter. They'll see us. Jake nodded. The decision weighed like stone. But decisions were what captains were for. We continue, he said finally. Full stealth. No emissions. Ben, keep working on those transmissions. Amy, track the energy output. Lisa, give me tactical projections. I want to know what we're walking into. The crew exchanged glances, fear and awe mingled in equal measure, but no one argued. Humanity hadn't crossed the stars to turn away at the first shadow. For the next 2 weeks, the truth unfolded piece by piece, and it was worse than anyone imagined. Ben's analysis confirmed it, the signals weren't trade chatter or scientific exchanges. The structure was too precise, too urgent. This was military coordination. Amy's readings grew more ominous. The energy spikes matched the profile of weapons fire on a scale beyond comprehension. Entire planets could be shattered by the energy they were detecting. Lisa's tactical projections painted a single picture: war. Not a skirmish. Not a border dispute. A war between powers so advanced that humanity's wars would look like tribal feuds by comparison. And the Defiance was sailing straight into its heart. As the system grew nearer, flashes appeared on long-range visual sensors. Not sensor noise. Not anomalies. Real light, energy beams spanning space, detonations brighter than moons. A battlefield on the scale of stars. Captain Morrison stood in silence as his crew processed what they were witnessing. Humanity's first true step into the galactic stage, and they had stumbled into a war zone. A war that had already consumed centuries. A war fought by civilizations whose technology made humanity look like children striking flint against stone. The galaxy, Jake realized, was not waiting to welcome them. It was already on fire. And this is where I want to ask you, the viewer. What would you do in Jake's position? Would you turn back to protect your crew, or press forward into the unknown, knowing humanity might never get another chance to see what lies beyond? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because the choice ahead will define not just one crew, but all of humanity. The first battle they witnessed was silent. From the bridge of the Defiance, no sound carried across the void, only the dreadful ballet of destruction unfolding on the main display. A vessel the size of a small moon erupted in fire, its hull shattering like glass beneath an unseen blow. Moments later, streams of light, weapons far beyond railguns or missiles, lanced through the dark, carving through fleets that dwarfed Earth's entire naval strength. No human eye had ever seen such scale. No human mind had ever carried the weight of such revelation. Commander Harper gripped the railing. God! Lieutenant Clark's voice trembled. That wasn't a ship, Captain. That was a station. Civilian infrastructure. They're not just fighting soldiers. They're annihilating populations. Jake said nothing. His throat was tight. This was no war of honor, no battle of warriors. This was extermination, waged without hesitation. Turner adjusted the signal filters, his brow furrowed. I've translated enough of the structure to be sure. The dominant signal belongs to one power. They call themselves the Sarah Empire. They command. They demand. The other signals. Fragments. Resistance. Rebellion. Lisa turned sharply. An empire? Yes, Ben said quietly. A galactic empire. And they're not defending. They're conquering. The word hung heavy over the crew. Empire. Humanity had buried that word in history, but here, across the stars, it was alive and burning. An empire that spanned light years. An empire that destroyed without hesitation. An empire that treated worlds as nothing more than obstacles to be crushed. Amy Clark added the final weight. Based on the debris fields, the Sarah Empire's been doing this for, at least 500,000 years. The bridge was silent again. 500,000 years. Humanity itself had barely begun to stand upright when this war machine was already grinding the stars into submission. For days, the Defiance shadowed the outskirts of the war zone, cloaked in silence, drifting like a ghost. The crew watched, horrified, transfixed, as fleets clashed, as planets burned, as civilizations older than Earth's entire species were dragged into the furnace of conquest. Rodriguez muttered one night on the engineering deck, "We don't belong here, Captain. We're ants watching giants stomp each other." But Jake knew better. Ants had survived giants before. And sometimes, ants had teeth. The turning point came when Ben detected a faint, desperate transmission cutting through the chaos. Not the structured commands of the Empire. Not the broken cries of resistance. Something different. Something careful. "Captain," he said, "this isn't from the Empire. It's outside their language family entirely. Encrypted, but elegant. Someone is reaching out, and not to them. To us." The crew leaned in. For the first time, they weren't just witnesses. They were participants. Amy's analysis confirmed it. The signal was narrowband, tightly focused, aimed directly at their location. Whoever sent it knew the Defiance was there. Jake gave the order. "Decode it. Now." Hours passed. Tension grew thick. Finally, the message emerged in shaky fragments. "We see you. You are not of them. We are the Harari. We have watched. We have endured. Do not trust the Empire. Do not trust the rebels. They are the same. There is more. Greater than them. Greater than you. If you wish to live, listen." The words chilled the crew to their core. Greater than them? Lisa asked. What could be greater than this? Amy shook her head. If the Harari are warning us, it means they've seen something even beyond the Sarah Empire. Something worse. Jake absorbed the message in silence. The Harari hadn't begged for help. They hadn't offered alliance. They had offered only a warning, a whisper in the storm. That night, in the captain's quarters, Jake couldn't sleep. The galaxy had opened itself like a wound, and humanity stood at its edge. He thought of Earth, of the billions back home who still believed space was wonder and discovery, not fire and ruin. They were innocent, fragile, and utterly unprepared. What right did he have to drag humanity into this war? Yet what choice did he have, when the war was already everywhere? He poured a glass of recycled water, the only luxury on a ship where nothing could be wasted, and stared at the reflection in the glass. His own eyes looked older than he remembered. What do you do, when the universe reveals itself as crueler than you imagined? He had no answer. Only resolve. The crew was changing, too. Fear was giving way to something sharper. Lisa's tactical assessments grew colder, more precise. Rodriguez doubled and tripled stealth protocols, refining systems beyond their limits. Amy immersed herself in alien science, scribbling notes like a woman possessed. Even Ben, stoic and weary, carried a new fire when he spoke of codes, as if breaking alien languages was now a personal war. Humanity was not breaking. Humanity was adapting. And the Empire, for all its might, had not yet noticed them. The next contact came when the Defiance stumbled across wreckage drifting between the stars. Not the remains of Empire vessels, but something smaller. Sleeker. Amy's analysis was instant. Not Sarah. Rebel craft. Lisa's tone hardened. Survivors? Unlikely. Atmosphere long vented. Life signs 0. But Captain, there may be data cores intact. Jake didn't hesitate. Rodriguez, bring us in. Quietly. The Defiance slid closer, her magnetic grapples securing fragments of alien steel. Amy and Ben worked feverishly, decoding alien technology with human improvisation. What emerged was more horrifying than anything yet. Star maps. Campaign routes. Hundreds of systems marked with imperial red, each representing a world crushed beneath the Sarah Empire. And more chilling still, rebel notes, desperate pleas for unity, fractured by mistrust. The so-called resistance was not a united front. They were scattered, infighting, their cause doomed. Jake stared at the maps. Whole galaxies painted in blood. This isn't resistance, he muttered. It's slaughter. And then he saw it. A single mark. Different from the rest. A black circle, drawn with trembling alien hands, accompanied by words that Ben could only partially translate. The architects are coming. The bridge fell silent once more. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Humanity had stumbled into an empire, into rebellion, into fire and conquest. But now, another shadow loomed. Harari were right, Lisa whispered. There's something worse. Something they all fear. Amy's hands shook as she clutched the datapad. If the Sarah Empire has ruled for 500,000 years, and even they fear what's coming, then we are ants standing not before giants, but before gods. Jake closed his eyes. The decision was no longer whether to stay or turn back. The decision was how humanity would endure, how they would carry this knowledge back to Earth, how they would prepare for a universe that had no mercy. For the first time, he felt the true weight of command. It wasn't about one ship. It wasn't about one crew. It was about the survival of an entire species, a fragile spark of life standing against storms that could snuff out suns. And in that moment, Captain Jake Morrison made his vow. Humanity would not bow. Not to empire. Not to rebellion. Not even to gods. They had come this far. They would go further still. If you've made it this far, ask yourself, what would humanity's place be in such a galaxy? Would we become servants of the powerful, or carve our own path, even if it meant defiance against impossible odds? Share your thoughts below, your perspective might inspire the next part of this story. The word echoed on the bridge of the Defiance like a curse. Architects. The Sarah Empire had ruled the galaxy for 500,000 years. They had broken species, burned civilizations, erased histories. And yet, in the stolen rebel data, their name appeared again and again, not as conquerors, but as prey. The architects were coming. Commander Harper broke the silence first. If the rebels fear them, if even the Empire fears them, then we're already too late. Amy Clark's hands shook as she spread star charts across the holodeck. These aren't just warnings. They're movements. Recorded incursions. Systems swallowed whole. Stars dimming. The rebels don't even know what the architects are. Only that when they arrive, nothing remains. Rodriguez cursed under his breath. We came out here looking for neighbors, and found nightmares instead. Captain Jake Morrison stood tall, but his heart carried a weight he could not show. Humanity was fragile, still new to the stars. They had crossed the void with hope, and found a galaxy drowning in fear. For days, the Defiance stayed hidden among drifting debris, running silent, piecing together fragments of truth. The Sarah Empire's brutality was clear: planets crushed, species enslaved, rebels scattered. Yet beneath their firepower lurked desperation. Empire broadcasts carried undertones not of triumph, but urgency. They were preparing for something larger than their endless war. "Their fleets aren't just conquering," Ben Turner said one evening, his tired eyes reflecting lines of alien code. "They're fortifying. Consolidating. It's like they're racing against time." Jake frowned. "Against the architects." Ben nodded slowly. "They're afraid. And fear makes empires reckless." Amy tapped her console, voice quiet. "Captain, whatever the architects are, they're not distant. Based on these rebel records, incursions have been moving closer every century. At this rate, within 1,000 years, they'll be here." 1,000 years. To galactic powers, it was a heartbeat. To humanity, it was forever. But Jake knew better. Time was not a gift. It was a countdown. The crew wrestled with the revelation in their own ways. Lisa sharpened tactical drills, preparing the Defiance for battles they could never truly win. Sam pushed the ship's stealth systems to limits even he hadn't imagined, trying to keep the fragile vessel invisible in the storm. Amy buried herself in alien science, searching for clues, scraps of understanding. Ben grew quieter, speaking only when certainty demanded it. They were afraid. But fear was not breaking them. It was shaping them. And Jake saw something the galaxy had long forgotten: resolve. The true test came when the Defiance finally crossed paths with a Sarah Empire patrol. A fleet of 3 warships, each one larger than Earth's cities, swept through the void like predators. Their scanners cut through darkness, searching for survivors, for rebels, for prey. On the bridge, alarms whispered. "They're sweeping in our vector," Rodriguez warned. "They'll catch us in the net." Lisa's voice was hard. "We can't fight them. Not head-on." Jake's mind raced. To run was to be hunted. To hide was to risk discovery. But to stand? To fight? Madness. And yet, history was never made by playing safe. "Sam," Jake said quietly, "cut stealth for 5 seconds. Aim our full spread at the nearest vessel." The crew froze. Harper's eyes locked on his. "Captain, that's suicide." "No," Jake said. "It's a message." The Defiance bared her teeth. For 5 seconds, humanity declared itself. Railguns thundered, missiles streaked, particle lances burned through the dark. The Empire ship shuddered under the sudden fury, armor buckling, hull scarred. It did not die, but it reeled, shocked. Then the Defiance vanished again, slipping back into shadow. The other 2 warships opened fire blindly, tearing space apart, hunting the ghost that had dared to strike. But the Defiance was already gone. On the bridge, silence returned, broken only by ragged breaths. Lisa whispered, "We just attacked the Empire." "No," Jake corrected. "We reminded them. Humanity exists. And we will not kneel." In the aftermath, Ben intercepted new Empire transmissions. Confusion. Shock. The attackers were unidentified, unclassified. Not rebel. Not Harari. Something new. Something small. And that smallness terrified them. "Captain," Ben said slowly, "they don't understand how a vessel our size did that much damage. They're afraid of what else we might be hiding." Jake smiled grimly. "Good. Let them wonder. Fear is a weapon, too." The Defiance turned away from the war zone, engines silent, heading back toward the endless dark. The crew did not speak of retreat. They spoke of return. Because now they carried something far greater than survival. They carried knowledge. The Sarah Empire. The rebels. The Harari. And beyond them all, the architects. Humanity could no longer pretend the galaxy was empty. It was full of war, full of fear, full of shadows waiting in the dark. But it was also full of possibility. One evening, as Earth's pale star charts glimmered faintly on the NAV console, Lisa asked the question that had haunted them all. Captain, what do we tell them? What do we tell Earth, when we go back? Jake looked out at the stars. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, quietly. The truth. That the galaxy is not ours to inherit. That it is older, darker, harsher than we dreamed. That empires rise and fall, and gods may walk among stars. But also that humanity endures. That even in the face of empires, we did not bow. That even before the architects, we raised our voice. He turned to his crew, his family among the stars. And we tell them this: humanity is ready. Ready to learn. Ready to fight. Ready to remember what the galaxy has forgotten, that even the smallest spark can defy the dark. The Defiance sailed on, a ghost in the void, a whisper of defiance carried between the stars. The Sarah Empire would remember the sting of that encounter. The rebels would whisper of shadows striking from nowhere. The Harari would watch with silent eyes. And somewhere, beyond the edges of known space, the architects stirred. But Earth would be ready. Humanity would be ready. Because the day would come when the galaxy trembled not before empires or gods, but before the will of mankind. If you've followed this journey across all three parts, I want to hear from you. What do you think the architects truly are? Are they gods, machines, or something even stranger? And when the time comes, do you believe humanity will defy them as we defied the empire, or become something new entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments. The story doesn't end here. It never ends.